Hey guys, OCB Communications. Welcome to my review of the Long Kiss Goodnight. Long Kiss Goodnight is a 1996 film directed by Renny Harlin and written by Shane Black. Now, Shane Black, one of the premier writers for action films in the 90s. I mean, he wrote wrote this film, The Long Kiss Goodnight. He also wrote The Last Boy Scout, which is, in my opinion, another underrated action film from the 90s, much like this movie. And, yes, recently he had a pitfall with Iron Man 3. At least I feel that way. I thought Iron Man 3 was awful. I really did. Gave me blue balls. I don't like an Iron Man movie with no Iron Man in it. Or barely any Iron Man in it. And when Iron Man is in it, he doesn't do jack shit except either get his ass kicked and saved by his girlfriend or not in the suit. Yeah, that's a whole nother fucking story. But anyway, Shane Black, with the screenplay for this movie, became the first writer to sell a script for $3 million. So, that right there tells you how much in high regard Shane Black was in the 90s. Now, the film didn't do spectacular on the box office. It really didn't. It was made for a budget of $65 million, and it only made about $89 million worldwide. So it made a little bit of a profit, but, it definitely wasn't the flop that Cutthroat Island was, but it didn't do a lot to sadly prove everyone wrong that Geena Davis can be a viable action star. And I think that's too bad, because she kicked a lot of ass in this movie. She was one super uber bitch of all bitches, and I'm not meaning that in derogatory term. I mean, she was, a kick-ass, take names, uber bitch. And, really, and it was also, she also did it in a realistic fashion. The film really, except for a few things like ice skating, shooting, chasing after a car and shooting at it while on ice skates. Other than that, the film did usually keep itself a little bit within the notes of reality. The fight choreography, for instance, were based on, fight moves that I could totally see someone like Geena Davis actually pulling off with the proper training. And that was nice to see. Unlike Bourne films, which are over-stylized and have ridiculous-ass action sequences, like Matt Damon kicking some dude's ass with a magazine, which, I'm sorry, it just takes me out of the movie. Here, you have the ice skating scene, but it's Geena Davis, and she's hot to trot in this movie, so I don't give a fuck. I don't care. So I can let it slide. So anyway, the film, of course, stars Geena Davis. This was actually her... I think this was her shining moment. I honestly would say this is my favorite Geena Davis movie now. I mean, I like Beetlejuice. I love The Fly. But this is more of her film. Those aren't really her films. Those are more of other actors' movies. Beetlejuice, you could maybe say, but I'd say Beetlejuice is really Michael Keaton's film. But the Longest Goodnight is really more of Geena Davis's movie. Now, Sam Jackson is great in it too, and the two have just electrifying chemistry with each other, which is something that, Matthew Modine and Geena Davis were sorely lacking in Cutthroat Island. And speaking of Cutthroat Island real quick, Geena Davis, it's a good thing that she did that movie, because it was a movie that let her dip her toe in the waters, so to speak, of a leading role in an action movie. And if she hadn't have done that, then she probably wouldn't have gotten the opportunity or the chance to do The Long Kiss Goodnight, where she put everything she had into this to redeem herself for Cutthroat Island, to prove everyone wrong that I can pull this off. And she did. The box office didn't reflect that, but that doesn't mean anything. There's a lot of movies. Spider-Man 3 made millions upon millions of dollars. Are we really going to say that that's a high point in cinema? I don't think so. So just because a movie makes money doesn't mean that it's a classic. Doesn't mean that it's a great movie. I mean, Last Boy Scout's another movie that didn't do very well for some reason. The same thing with Long Kiss Goodnight. I don't know why this movie wasn't a hit. And I think, once again, it's because of that stupid, criticism that some people have, preconception that people have when they see a movie, an action film, and a woman is in the lead role. Oh, fuck that. I don't buy that. That's a bunch of BS. And I didn't stress this enough in the Cutthroat Island review, and I should have. You know what I call that? I call that bullshit. I call that bullshit on that. That's fucking stupid, okay? That's stupid thinking to think that just because there's a woman in a lead role in an action movie that is going to suck. Stop thinking that way, okay? What do we live in the 50s where women can't have these type of roles and aren't allowed to? No, we're in the 21st century, motherfuckers. Open your eyes and, you know, at least open your eyes to it and give them a chance. Don't just buff the movie off because it stars a female, you know, in an action movie. Don't just buff it off just because of that, okay? That's all I'm saying. Like, give it a chance. God, just want to smack people in the face for thinking that way. Oh, it stars a woman. Oh, fuck that shit. I don't buy that for a second. You know this woman in this movie that Geena Davis plays? I guarantee she can kick your ass up and down all the way down to motherfucking Chinatown. So, you know, maybe you should check it out. And also, you know, has a good amount of, you know, scenes for us guys out there. So, you know, don't sleep on The Long Kiss Goodnight. You know, give it a look. But sadly, a lot of people didn't do that back in '96. They should have. Probably missed a hell of an awesome movie in the theater. Now, basically, you know, there's a few other, you know, cast members here and there in the film. You know, of course, Geena Davis, Sam Jackson, Patrick Malahide, Craig Bierko is Timothy, who plays basically the main bad guy, I guess. And yes, he acts like Ben Stiller. He's not intimidating at all. But to be honest, I actually, you know, the first time around I saw this movie, I hated that guy. Here, I still hate him, but I warmed up to the performance because I'm like, okay, it gives it a unique feel. It gives it something unique. That gives the film a unique twist. You know, instead of the typical cliched, you know, Anthony Hopkins type sophisticated bad guy, here we have a guy who is basically just acting like, you know, the douchebag you knew in high school. Okay, and, you know, that you wanted to punch in the face. You know, the popular jock who was giving you shit all the time and thought his shit didn't stink. And, to be honest, there are people out there, assassins and murderers and you know, people out there that are like that. So, you know, it's nice to see that side of the coin. Then there are a few lines here and there he had that I enjoyed, like when there's a random henchman dying, you know, he's like, I think I'm dying, and he said over the radio, and he's all like, then continue dying, out. You know, I was just visibly annoyed, and it was actually, you know, Craig Bierko, I take back what I said about him in my earlier rant on this movie, which I don't know why I ranted on this movie. I must have been drinking or something, and because this movie was awesome, and I don't mind Craig Bierko now. Because, you know, hey, he played a villain that you love to hate. And that's pretty much what you want out of your bad guy in the movie. That you love to hate this guy. You want him to get his ass kicked. You want him to die. And when he gets his comeuppance, it's a crowd-pleaser moment. And that's what you want in an action movie like this. Now, also the film, a few other, you know, there's Brian Cox as Dr. Nathan Waldman. I liked his performance. David Morse did a good job as Luke Daedalus. A short role, but he did a good job. He was definitely a little bit more intimidating than Craig Bierko. I'm almost wondering, like, what would happen if you flipped the two. David Morse played Timothy instead, and then David Bierko just played the Daedalus guy. Maybe it might have worked a little bit better. Might have been able to raise the film a little bit up a notch. Because the film is below a little bit of a notch for me, because the villain is lame. I can deal with him this time around because he is a little bit different, but at the same time, he still is really lame. Still a lame villain. Anyway, I also have the score by Alan Silvestri, one of my favorite composers. I think it's one of his most underrated scores. I think he does a good job with the music here. It's not particularly memorable, but it really does help the film. It does help the pacing. It helps, you know, helps the scope of the movie. And I really like certain parts of the score, like the score at the train station, for instance. Cinematography is solid by Guillermo Navarro. The editing is good by William Goldenberg. The directing by Renny Harlin is top-notch. Because Renny Harlin, I'm sorry, is not one of the worst directors of all time. If you think he's one of the worst directors of all time, then you don't like over-the-top 90s stylish action movies. Period. You don't like them. That's not your type of cup of tea, and you're expecting him to be like Michael Mann or Christopher Nolan, and he's not. he's more, you know, Michael Bay. And if you don't like Michael Bay, then you're probably not going to like Renny Harlin. And I don't think Michael Bay is that bad of a director. He's good at what he's, you know, what he's good at. What his forte is. His forte is over-the-top action movies. Same thing with Renny Harlin. Over-the-top action movies. Both directors are really good at what they do. It might not be what you like, but it doesn't mean that they're not good at what they do. That's the problem. I'm sorry. When you look at a director from a technical standpoint, you look at what they're able to do. Michael Bay isn't responsible for some, you know, all of some of his movies' failings, just like Renny Harlin. Renny Harlin isn't responsible for the shitty screenplay that Cutthroat Island had, or the shitty screenplay that The Covenant had, or the shitty screenplay that the new Hercules movie has. He's only, you know, directors only have so much control, and I think Renny Harlin in this film, he does a great job setting up his shots, does a great job shooting action, because he's really good at that. Renny Harlin's forte is action movies. If you don't like action movies, and you're expecting some, you know, Robert Altman, or, you know, Christopher Nolan, or Stanley Kubrick stuff, then you're not gonna think he's a good director, because that's what you base a good director on. But in my opinion, that's selling certain directors short. That's selling other directors short, like Renny Harlin, because he's not like Michael Mann or Chris Nolan. So that's all I gotta say about Renny Harlin. He's great at the genre that he's, you know, that he's asked to do. His genre is over-the-top 90s stylish action movies. He's great at that. He does a good job with over-the-top stylish horror films as well, other than The Covenant. But you know, he's at, you know, the genre that he's used to, you know, he's really good at. And he's even, you know, even Mindhunters I liked, which was a little bit out of the box for Renny Harlin. I think maybe if Renny Harlin got the opportunity to do something like Michael Mann or some good script and ability to direct a drama, he might do a good job too. Who knows? He doesn't, you know, because that's not what he's asked to do. This is what I'm saying. I mean, you're just selling him short, in my opinion, if you think that he's one of the worst directors of all time. I think that's bullshit. I think it's a bunch of bullshit. The people nowadays are thinking that the guy who directed this movie, and Die Hard 2, and Cliffhanger, is one of the worst directors of all time, and is right up there with Uwe Boll. And the same thing goes for Joel Schumacher. Yes, Batman and Robin sucked. He did what he was asked to do, make a toy commercial for Warner Brothers, blame them more than Joel Schumacher, and yes, there were some moments like, you know, I like big butts and I cannot lie, and bat nipples. I didn't need that, and he is to blame for that. But Joel Schumacher also directed some excellent films like The Lost Boys, Flatliners, and Falling Down. Same thing goes with Renny Harlin. He's directed some excellent movies as well, with their own distinct visual style. So if you're bitching about how he didn't tell a story as well as you would have hoped, that's not usually the director's job to do. That's the screenwriter's job. And if the screenwriter doesn't write a good enough screenplay, then the director doesn't have a chance in hell of making that film work. So that's all I gotta say. Renny Harlin, get off his fucking back. I'm tired of seeing this shit all over the internet, calling him one of the worst directors of all time. It's a bunch of fucking shit. Now back to the movie. Get into the plot, so to speak. I'm trying to go through this as fast as I can, because I for some reason, this is a movie that I've tried to review multiple times, and I keep getting fucked up for some stupid reason. The camera doesn't record it, or something happens. Just hope to God I can just get this recorded. Anyway, the film starts out with some Geena Davis playing Samantha Kane, who's this mother and school teacher with a seemingly normal life in the small town of Holmesdale, Pennsylvania. 8 years previously, she was found pregnant and badly injured, suffering complete amnesia after being found washed up on a beach in New Jersey. Since that time, she's hired a series of private investigators to try to uncover her past with no success. The latest and one of the few she can afford being the wisecracking private investigator Mitch Hennessy, which, great job. Sam Jackson was great. And Sam Jackson actually admitted in a 2012 interview that this is his favorite film that he's been in. And Renny Harlin also said the same thing in an interview as well, which I thought was an interesting little bit of trivia. And another bit of trivia about the film is that originally New Line wanted to make this a movie without Geena Davis. They wanted to have Stallone or Seagal in the lead. And I love Stallone, I love Seagal. Seagal at this point in time, because he still wasn't fat fuck Seagal like he is now. But I'm glad Geena Davis got the role for this, because she does a great job, and it makes the film stand out. It makes it unique. Saliva or Seagal was in it would just be another, 90s action movie starring Stallone or Seagal. Here, this, with Geena Davis and Sam Jackson, it gives it something different, which I like. Now, there's this assassin, this guy who was hired to kill, Geena Davis earlier when she, and he failed, and he ends up seeing her on TV, and he escapes from prison. Samantha Cain, Geena Davis, leaves from a Christmas party and brings this old guy who's had a little bit too much to drink, tried to drive him home. He's distracting her. They hit a deer. Deer crashes through the windshield, smacks the old guy in the face. Really a random scene, which honestly was shot kind of laughably. That's one part of direction in the scene by Harlin I could say could have used a little bit of tweaking. So she gets flown from the car. She's got blood pouring down her face. She starts getting flashbacks of what we don't know yet. And, of course, later on in the film you find out they're flashbacks of her real self, her assassin self. And I like the way that they set up these flashbacks. It's very stylish and very dreamy looking. There's even a scene which is almost like nightmarish, where she sees her real self in the mirror, like short cropped blonde hair, slicked back, and grabs a knife and slits her own throat, which you're like, oh, that's some crazy ass shit. And anyway, she gets back from the car accident. She recovers from the hospital, goes back home with her husband, starts chopping up some carrots, and her old skills, her skills as an assassin, start to come back. And earlier before it also happened as well, because she broke the neck of the deer that she hit like viciously, like with just force and ferocity that you didn't see this character displayed before. And I just think Geena Davis does a great job in this role of playing, the typical role you're used to seeing Geena Davis in, the housewife from, heartwarming, harmless housewife. And then you see these, and then she morphs into this badass, and she does it brilliantly and pulls it off. And I can't sing my praises enough for her performance. I think she's just excellent in this movie. And drop dead gorgeous. So anyway, she starts chopping up these carrots, and she starts chopping up really quick, and she thinks she's a chef. She's like, oh, I'm a chef. And she starts displaying some really abnormal knife skills. Flips the knife in the air, throws it, and stabs a pepper against a wall, against a cupboard door, like expertly. And then her husband looking at her like, what? And she's smiling, and she's like, chefs do that. And then the husband's giving her a look like, I don't think so, honey. And then she ends up showing other things, like another part of her personality. Her daughter falls down while ice skating, and she's hurt, and she just starts berating her. She's like, get up, life is pain, get used to it. And she's like, oh, and you find out the daughter actually broke a bone. And then later on she's talking to her husband. Her husband's like, she actually broke her arm. Why did you make her skate after breaking her arm? She's like, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. And then she ends up, dealing with that. And then the guy, assassin, who escaped from prison, who wants, Samantha's head, he ends up showing up at the door, says hi, fires at her with a high-powered shotgun or a grenade launcher. I think it's a grenade launcher. Beats the shit out of her husband, blows a hole through a wall. Samantha grabs her daughter, throws her into a treehouse, to safety. He shoots the grenade at a refrigerator door, sends Samantha flying backwards. The bad guy, what is it? His name's not Jonathan. His name is Jack. One-eyed Jack grabs a pot or crock pot or whatever and just viciously smacks Geena Davis in the face with it repeatedly. Movie doesn't hold back. It actually, it's a girl, but we're going to let her not only kick ass, but we're also going to let her be vulnerable and actually show that she's human and she can get punched in the face too. Women get punched in the face too. It happens. You're not supposed to punch a girl. I know. But I like the fact that the movie doesn't pussyfoot around it and, shows that, you know, the proper viciousness that it needs to show. It isn't being all delicate and frilly with this character that Geena Davis is playing. Now, what happens is, after she gets smacked in the face a couple times, Geena Davis grabs a pie, smacks the guy in the face with it. You're thinking, this is just, what is this, a comedy, Three Stooges? This is so stupid. But then, this whole scene really starts to come together. Because while the guy's dazed on the ground, she rabbit punches him in the back of the neck and then snaps his neck like a twig. And then she licks the frosting, like the whipped cream off her finger, you know, like with demented glee almost. And then gives and Geena Davis then has this look on her face. This look like this, you don't want to fuck with me look. I mean, she gives this look that, you know, literally would make me shit my pants if I saw it in real life. You know, this look of like, don't fuck with me. And then her husband comes in and sees all the carnage, and she's all like, chefs do that. And they're like, huh? Yeah, I don't think chefs do that, honey. Yeah, they don't have knife skills like you showed earlier, and they don't kill people. But yeah, unless they're Steven Seagal and Under Siege. But anyway, she ends up, you know, basically showing these new skills that are starting, her old self is starting to resurface. And her private investigator, Sam Jackson, Hennessy, ends up basically having her break in her case, finds a suitcase that in the attic of an old boarding house that Kane briefly stayed at years before, and information is found in it that leads Samantha Kane to a contact of hers, Dr. Nathan Waldman, played by Brian Cox. And during the trip, Kane discovers a reassembled Remington 700 in a hidden compartment in the suitcase, and she starts assembles them like really quick, like expertly. You know, like she's known how to do this her entire life. And she fires it out of reflex at Sam Jackson, and Sam Jackson is done. He doesn't want to drive her anywhere anymore. You know, he's like, I'm not going back to prison. And then she ends up eventually convincing Sam Jackson to continue to help her, you know, give her a ride to the train station to meet up with this Nathan Waldman, played by Brian Cox. Now, Brian Cox, I thought, did a good job, and you had a few lines that Brian Cox had. Like, this is one of the first lines. One of the first ways you were introduced to Brian Cox here. You could tell that this character, he's been in the CIA, he's had all these great adventures with the CIA and cover-ups and everything. And here he is, sitting with his wife, you know, his fuddy-duddy of a wife. He's basically living this bland, boring, you know, life now, and it's hell for him. And this line of dialogue perfectly exemplifies that. He's talking to his wife at the dinner table. He's all like, Alice, please, your dog, Alice. It and my appetite are mutually exclusive. Well, what's wrong with the dog? Simple. He's been licking his asshole for the last three straight hours. I submit to you that there is nothing worth more than an hour's attention. I should think that whatever he's attempting to dislodge is either gone for good or there to stay. Wouldn't you agree? I just thought that was a clever, you know, scene, and pretty funny. And shows that, you know, he's bored. So, you know, he needs some adventure. And so he gets it in Samantha Kane and Sam Jackson's character Hennessy contacting him. So they head over to the train station. They end up getting attacked, and Geena Davis ends up shooting the guy who's trying to kill him, who poses as a Waldman. And then they're running him down the hallway, getting shot at. Bad guys throw a grenade. Sam Jackson's like, oh shit. And I like this action sequence. I really like it. It's well shot, well done. And throw the grenade, and Geena Davis grabs Hennessy's gun, blows out the window, and they jump out of the window together while the grenade explodes behind them. Then she shoots a hole in the ice below, and they dive down underwater to avoid all the debris. And it's just, you know, it's a hard scene to really just explain, because it doesn't sound like much, but when you see it in the film, it really does work, because it's a great stunt. And so yeah, I really enjoyed that action sequence. So after that action sequence, they meet up with Nathan again, but Sam Jackson has some second thoughts about him, so is Geena Davis. They don't know if they can trust him, so they knock him out and they drive away. They find a clue in the suitcase that talks about this other guy named Luke, So Samantha and Hennessy go to this isolated farm to visit Luke, played by David Morse. They find out that he's not who he says he is. He's actually Daedalus, who is actually a target, that her former self, her real self, Geena Davis's real self, Charlie Baltimore, assassin for the government, was supposed to take down earlier, 8 years earlier, before she ended up, losing her memory. And this Daedalus guy is pleasantly surprised that they're all here, and so he promptly kills Waldman. And now, before that, there was a fun line of dialogue where Waldman is caught Sam Jackson, and Mitch is all like, "How did you find us? There are many reasons not to kill you, but among them is not that you miss my NASA. I found the address in your coat, between the address of a tapas bar and the picture of what looks like a man's penis." That's a duck, not a dick. I just thought that was really funny. And I know it doesn't seem like I'm really that into it. It's because, like I said earlier, this is like the 4th or 5th time I'm trying to review this movie. I love this film. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of hard for me to put everything into it again for like the 5th time. But anyway, I love it. That's a fun scene. Sam Jackson really sells that line. It's a duck, not a dick, with great deadpan. And to be honest, the Notebook, the picture did kind of look like a dick. Not that I'm thinking about dicks all the time, I'm just saying, it kind of did look like a dick. And then sadly, the fun pretty much ends pretty quickly, because then Waldman ends up getting tied to a water wheel and drowned to death. David Morse, the bad guy, Daedalus, tries to do the same thing to Samantha, but all he ends up doing is waking up Charlie from the dead. She promptly shoots him, and he promptly kills his ass. And then what follows is like some of the most steamiest, sexiest, just oozing with sexuality sequences I've seen in a film. Just Geena Davis, cutting her hair, dyeing it blonde, having a makeover. And it's just absolutely just gorgeous. Just an absolute beautifully well shot sequence. It's hot, it's sexy, it's a turn on, it definitely does get me hot and bothered. Then she shows up, and Geena Davis is already a beautiful enough woman, but the look that she has here is just, oh god, it's just heaven for me. And she starts lip locking with Sam Jackson, bites his ear, and I'm like, oh god, and I'm just jealous. I'm jealous of Sam Jackson, just like everyone else. And I'm like, damn it, I wish that was me. And even Sam Jackson is shocked about this new side of Geena Davis, because there's a line that he has where he's all like, he's like, what I'm saying is, back when we first met, you were all like, ah, fool, fooey, I burned the darn muffins. Now you go into a bar, 10 minutes later, sailors come running out. What up with that? So I enjoy that line of dialogue. And then Sam Jackson got shot earlier in the film, so Charlie tries to, basically rips off his bandage real quick. And Mitch is like this. He's like, oh shit, that hurt like shit. I know. That's why I distracted you first. Same principle as the flowering virgins. Huh? What? What? Read in this Harold Robbins book. Guy bites her on the ear, distracts her from the pain. Ever try that? No. I sock him in the jaw and yell, pop goes the weasel. And then, she starts coming on to him. She wants to basically, take him for a ride. And he's like, the last time I got blown, candy bars cost a nickel. So there's a lot of fun lines of dialogue like that. There's even the chemistry between Geena Davis and Sam Jackson is great. I can't emphasize that enough. And so now the new reborn Charlie Baltimore calls up her old CIA contacts to get a new job, finds out that they're actually trying a new idea, a new plan, where her former boss, Leland Perkins, has allied himself with her former flame, Timothy Craig Bierko, with a false flag plot to detonate a chemical bomb in Niagara Falls, New York, and then frame this terrorist attack on Islamic terrorists, so then the CIA can secure more funding. which is a scary idea. And this is before 9/11. I'm not saying that 9/11 was a government job. I'm just saying that it's a pretty ballsy move for a script, you know, to pull. And there's a lot of ballsy moves in this movie. I mean, it continues the ballsy moves. I mean, this movie has a rape joke in it. It actually works, but there's still a rape joke in it, you know, that I feel bad for laughing at, but it works. And this is where Geena Davis, Sam Jackson go out in the street. Some guys try to give Geena Davis some shit. This one guy basically tells her, you know, good evening, pretty lady. How about some company? And Geena Davis is all like, no thanks. I'm saving myself till I get raped. Just the way that she says it is so deadpan, and it just really works really well. And so then she makes short work of these guys who are trying to rape her or give her some shit. And then her and Sam Jackson then go over back to Pennsylvania and Honesdale because they overheard something that they're going to go after Geena Davis's daughter next. And she tries to get her daughter back, but she's a little bit too late. That's the scene where you have the ice skating, where she skates on ice skates, skates across this lake, shoots some guys, you know, flips her hair. You know, like a really kind of, you know, over-the-top, silly action sequence, but it works. It was originally going to be even more over the top, because the ice skating scene was originally scripted to end with Samantha performing a double axel flip and simultaneously firing over her upside down head. And after 2 aerial rig configurations in sub-zero conditions, several attempts at green screening failed to hold any convincing fluency to the action. It was dropped from the final cut of the film. I'm glad it was, because that would have made it even more ludicrous. It's already ludicrous enough, her ice skating and shooting guns, you know, while ice skating. But it worked here. But double axle, triple flip, sock how, what, it really would have been way too overboard. And I would have just been like, come on, you gotta be fucking kidding. Here, I was still like, oh, what, really, ice skating? But I can deal with it. I mean, I could take or leave that scene. You know, the film would be fine with me without it, but the film is fine with it too. It's like one of those scenes. Like, it doesn't make or break the movie. It doesn't really hurt the film that much. But it is definitely a corny scene. Then basically what happens is she realizes that, you know, she fails in getting her daughter back. So then Baltimore and Hennessy head over to the operations staging area where the truck bomb is being prepared. And I like the scenes here. I like the way that they shoot the action scenes with Geena Davis's character when she's remembered who she is, the assassin character. You know, she's doing things that a woman of her size and stature could actually do, realistically do. Stab a guy in the throat, can definitely do that. Stealthy moves. Shoot some guy in the eye through the eye hole, you know, in the door with a sniper pistol, can do. Shoot some guys with some automatic weapons, can do. Grabs her daughter, you know, goes back into the... I like that scene where she shoots the guy in the eye, gets her daughter back, shoots a couple more guys, spotlights are all over her. She takes her daughter into this basement, and I just like the ferocity that Geena Davis shows. It's not a very long scene, and she has 2 guns, automatic rifles, and she's just pissed and just shooting up this fucking basement, shooting at the fucking hell and back. And I love that scene because it shows that this character has ferocity and anger, and you don't want to fuck with her. She's just making this basement her bitch. And you think it's for no reason, she's just frustrated, but really she's shooting up these canisters of oil, you know, oil drums, so she can use them for a clever way of escaping from a certain scenario later. Basically a near-death, basically an escape from death later in the film. And what happens is she saved her daughter, but it's all for naught because Timothy ends up capturing her anyway. And she ends up telling her captor, Timothy, that a nice little surprise nugget of information that her daughter is actually his daughter. And his reaction is simply, oh, she does have my eyes. Throw that little bitch in with her mommy. You know, that kind of like, oh my god, oh, my little bitch. It was just like, holy shit. Like, this guy is really an asshole. And that type of lines really, you know, kind of warm me up to Craig Bierko's character, because I'm like, man, this guy is such a fucking douchebag. You're just rooting for him to die. And that's the whole point. That's what you want out of a bad guy in a 90s action movie. So anyway, before he locks her up in this freezer with her daughter, Geena Davis has this great scene where she basically tells him what she's going to do later. And she's like, no, he's like, it's over, Charlie. And she's like, it ain't over. You're going to die screaming. And I'm going to watch. Am I telling the truth? And then she gives the look that she gives on her face could just bore holes through fucking steel. It's such a cold look on her face, and this smile is just one of those like, yeah, I don't want to fuck with that lady. I don't want to fuck with that bitch. She will make sure I will die screaming. I will die screaming. She gets out of there, I will die screaming. I'm not gonna fuck with her. This is the look on her face is just perfect. And Geena Davis didn't even have to say anything in that scene. She said those lines and then she gave that look of like, don't fuck with me. And she knocked it out of the fucking park. Great scene. And so then she implements her plan. So she shot up the basement earlier to fill up her daughter's doll with some gasoline, with some gas. She pours the gas out of the doll and starts trying to create a fire, trying to create a spark with a crowbar, but she can't do it. She's distraught and crying, and that's it, we're done. But then her daughter has a nice tender moment. She says, Mommy, don't cry. I got matches. I saved matches to light your candle when you were away. It's like, oh, thank you, honey. And then she lights the match. And then, all the while this is going on, Sam Jackson is being held by Timothy and is about to get his head blown off. And then you have the scene where you've seen in the trailers, which I love this scene too, where her daughter's like, Mommy, am I going to die? And then I love how Geena Davis flips on a dime from mother, no, to, cold, hard badass. She's like, oh no, baby, no. You're not going to die. They are. Cover your ears. Hey, should we get a dog? And then drops the match. The basement goes boom. Sam Jackson gets saved from certain doom by getting blown out a window. And then Charlie and her daughter get out of the compound, out of the wreckage. She fucks up a couple more guys in realistic fashion. Not some bullshit like the Bourne Identity films where, Matt Damon's kicking some dude's ass with a magazine, which is stupid. I can't take it seriously. Here I could definitely buy these moves that Geena Davis is making here. And she tells her daughter to go run and hide. She finds the worst place to hide in the truck that's going to get blown up. So then she goes to get her daughter back. Mitch decides to do one thing right in his life and get her back for her, but it's basically suicide mission. He gets gunned down. You think he's dead. You find out he isn't, of course, later in the film because he's Sam motherfucking Jackson. Sam Jackson doesn't die. And that what's funny is that in the original cut of the film, he does die. Mitch does die. But a test screening, during a test screening, an audience member said exactly what I said. You can't kill Sam Jackson. And then Harlin changed the final cut so that his character survives. Because they're like, you can't kill Sam Jackson. He's right, you can't kill Sam Jackson. If motherfucking snakes on a plane ain't gonna kill Sam Jackson, then, getting blown out a window or getting shot with a few puny bullets ain't gonna stop Sam Jackson. Because he's Sam motherfucking Jackson. Although, I guess a giant shark could stop him. But not snakes. But anyway, he's still Sam Jackson. Anyway, he's still a bad motherfucker. So anyway, Charlie then decides to go, I gotta get my daughter back. So she goes in and commandeers the truck. And I like this scene and this line of dialogue, which could seem ridiculous, but Geena Davis pulls it off. She does a lot better than with this line that Demi Moore did in G.I. Jane. And she's ready to barrel this truck through a brick wall, and she's all like, suck my dick, every one of you bastards. Boom! Through the brick wall, flips on its side, meets up with Timothy, flips out a knife, she, meets up with Timothy, she gets flung out of the truck. Timothy shows up, starts kicking her, she kicks him in the face, punches him in the face, crowd-pleasing moment where she just punches him in the face twice, just, oh, it's great. Just get some, Geena, kick his ass. And then she ends up grabbing him, and he grabs her, and they fall down into this sort of like underground sort of waterway or something, and they hold on to this net or rope. She kicks him down into the waterway. I think he's dead, but nope. Shows up later, and he gets on his helicopter, and then while this is happening, this character that Geena Davis is playing for us earlier, before she knocked him down, he cut her pretty bad, because he grabs out a knife, and he's all like, she's like, "Oh, honey, only 4 inches?" And he's like, "Oh, but you'll feel me." And he cuts her, and you're right, she did feel him, because you could see she's bleeding everywhere. She's bleeding on her face. She's got cuts and bruises on her face. She's bleeding, you know, just pools of blood on her chest. And you see she's exhausted, and she just passes out. And right next to her daughter. And her daughter's like, "Get up! God damn it, don't die!" And that gives her enough motivation to get up. And at this point in time, Timothy shows up, starts shooting at her. And also at the same time, you think that all hope is lost. But Sam Jackson wakes up from the dead and starts up a car, drives out of this trailer, you know, comes to the rescue. And Geena Davis knows that now. So Charlie's got some newfound, you know, confidence, grabs a knife, cuts this Christmas tree light with this dead guy she killed earlier who's on fire. The weight from the dead guy sends the Christmas tree light, you know, going up. She grabs the gun from the dead guy, shoots fucking Timothy, you know, on the helicopter, crowd pleasing while he's getting shot full of fucking bullets. Then he falls while he's falling off the helicopter, you know, and she's like, "Die screaming, motherfucker!" And he's like, "Ah!" Boom! Then he lands on top of the tanker, explodes. And what absolutely a fantastic practical explosion. The bridge is just so, oh, it made me want to cry. Because we don't see that nowadays. Because it's CGI. I'm sorry. Explosions should be practical. No fucking reason why they should be CGI. Stop it with the CGI explosions. Fire does not look realistic enough to be CGI. Blow some shit up and blow it up for real. Don't pussyfoot this shit. Blow it up for real. If you blow up a miniature, blow up a fucking miniature. Don't give me this CGI bullshit. I want to see real explosions. So, great practical explosion. Bridge blows up, the sky high, you know, high heaven. Cars are falling out of the sky, exploding. Sam Jackson, Geena Davis somehow managed to make it out alive, you know, in spite of his fucking carnage, you know, this carnage. And she ends up sharing a moment with Mitch. She ends up going back to her old home and meet up with her husband, and I don't know, explain to him, "Yeah, honey, I'm an assassin for the government." And they're like, "What?" And Mitch gets his moment in the sun finally, proves his wife wrong, that he actually can be somebody. And he ends up basically getting a spot on Larry King. And the end of the movie is pretty much Geena Davis has basically found this P.O. box, this, you know, deposit box, which had some money that Charlie saved for over her exploits. They retire in the country. She does one last knife trick before the credits roll, and movie's over. And I want to get up and cheer because I really enjoyed the movie that much. I thought it was an excellent film, excellent movie, great action flick. If you like 90s action movies, check it out. If you like Geena Davis movies, check it out. If you like Samuel Jackson movies, check it out. If it's a movie that you saw first, like me, and you didn't like it, give it another look. Because now it's my favorite Geena Davis movie. You know, I don't know what I was thinking. Earlier I thought it was terrible, but now I really like the movie. Great action, great pacing, good story, good, you know, great cast, good acting, solid directing, an interesting story which isn't too confusing, but interesting enough and has enough, you know, nice bits of humor and satire and action to keep it going. Just all around, my opinion, a great movie. A great action film. And one of the most underrated action movies in the 90s. And I really don't know what to say about Long Kiss Goodnight, except for rated out of 5 stars. I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Because the villain, like I'm saying, yeah, he's if you had somebody on par with like John Lithgow from Cliffhanger, that could have bumped it up even higher. And a few issues here and there with some of the editing, some of the flashback dream-looking sequences. It could have been trimmed up touched up a little, not trimmed up, but tightened up. You know, the scene with the deer could have been tightened up a little bit too. The first half of the film was kind of slow build. But other than that, you know, those are a few little nitpicky things, but they don't really affect my full enjoyment of the film. I really enjoyed the hell out of The Long Kiss Goodnight. I'm sorry, I can't talk. It's probably because this is the 5th fucking time I'm reviewing this movie. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of The Long Kiss Goodnight. I hope it was a good one, and I'll see you guys later. See ya.